Start. All right, we are live. Welcome to the live coding happy hour for Friday, October 20th. This is the Hacktoberfest edition. As usual, we're having some technical difficulties. Dave usually does this stuff, and it's actually surprisingly scary and really difficult to start the broadcast and twiddle all of the various settings and stream keys and all of the patchwork of things that make this happen. So thank you for bearing with us and waiting. So with all of that, I'm Josh Neris. I'm a developer evangelist, and with me today is
Andrew Barnes. I'm a ServiceNow architect at Debug Health, and occasional frequent of the stream here.
We always love having you on. So really appreciate you being on today. I know you've got crazy schedule. Dave is out today. He had some other stuff going on. And then Chuck, he actually posted about this on Twitter, so I don't feel bad mentioning it. He's recovering from a minor surgery, so we wish him speedy recovery and wish he could be here. But it's Andrew and myself today.
Yay!
So I'm excited though. So we've got a really cool topic. This is our stream about Hacktoberfest. And so Dave actually posted a blog post yesterday talking about Hacktoberfest, and I'm actually just going to share my screen. I'm going to pull up some stuff here so we can see what this is all about. So DigitalOcean and GitHub have partnered together to basically promote contribution to open source and public projects, and they've called this Hacktoberfest. And the way this works is you get to basically get a T-shirt and cred and whatever else if you contribute. And it really promotes just getting people involved with open source and other public projects. And so we were looking for a way to do this. So that's really what our episode is about today. But before I do that, forgetting something very important.
It's a very important step.
It's extremely important. So what are you drinking today?
So today, I think I actually had this on previously, which was, but I really wanted it today, which was a Four Saints, That's the Way It Goes.
Very nice. And so today, this is very difficult to find, and it's Zombie Dust. It's a Three Floyds IPA, and it disappears very quickly. And so I'm really excited. I don't think I've ever had Zombie Dust on live coding before, so it's a good one.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen
it. And with all of the technical difficulties, I'll need it.
Were you intending to share your screen? Because you didn't actually share it.
No, that's a great point. I actually just said I was going to share my screen, and then I realized that I had not talked about the beers. And so, yeah, I'm just all discombobulated because I don't usually do this way. So anyway, bear with me, bear with us. In the true tradition of live coding happy hour, we are making this all run on the fly as it goes, and it's lots of fun. So I will actually share my screen now. And let me pick the correct screen, hopefully. There we go. And I just want to talk about a couple of things. So the first is, first off, let me just confirm, can you see that?
I can see a countdown. I'm scared.
Okay, cool. It's just a clock. It's counting up. It's not too bad. So I want to just look for Hacktoberfest. So hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com. If you go here, you can you click Start Hacking. And you can sign up for this, which is cool. And you register with your DigitalOcean account. Now, I've actually already registered. But if you want to get involved and if you want to, actually contribute pull requests to public repositories, you have to go through this little sign up process. And then after you've done that, you can actually take a look and see how's your progress. So have you contributed or not? Click this little check your progress button. And I have submitted 2 pull requests, and I'm 2 away from earning my special T-shirt. So I want to be very clear. While we're talking about Hacktoberfest for a ServiceNow project today, I'll get into in a minute, you can contribute to other stuff as well. So there's a ton of good projects out there, and a lot of the libraries and things that we use as developers is created by people just volunteering their time. So this is a really good way to get involved in that. So the next thing I want to talk about is how this actually ties into ServiceNow. And Dave and I were actually at GitHub Universe conference last week, and we were looking at all these cool projects and things that people were building, and we had this idea, and I'm like, well, why can't we do the same thing. It's really difficult, if you've created an application and in ServiceNow today, some of the time it's not as easy as you might think to accept contributions from external parties. And even though we have this integration to GitHub, you can commit stuff to that, but if you say fork a repository and then somebody else commits to that and they submit a pull request, it can be challenging or interesting at times to actually merge those things back in. And so we set on.
It's basically a separate app at that point, as far as ServiceNow is concerned, right?
Yeah, it really is. Because what happens is, if you've ever explored a Git repository that's hooked up. Actually, let me just do this now. I'm going to pull one up. There is some stuff that goes on. So this is the Slack points thing bot that we have in the Slack channel. There's this thing called checksum.txt. Right. And what this thing is it's a representation of the repository at the time that it was committed to Git. And if you make changes to this repository outside of ServiceNow, it invalidates the checksum. So right. say I had a thing and then you made changes to it and I merged that into my code outside of ServiceNow. Now my checksum is not valid anymore because it would be dangerous to bring that into the instance and basically you're stuck. So with that, how can we make this better? How can we actually maybe use pull requests? So I'm just going to pull up Dave's blog post and we'll talk about that.
And of course, you're going to community.servicenow.com, which is a fantastic resource. And it's one of the things that makes ServiceNow great is our community.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And if you want to find this post, just look for Hacktoberfest, and it's the one thing there. So basically, let me just pull up. I was doodling on the iPad trying to visualize this. And the way this whole process works is, so in a traditional Git contribution model, you have a maintainer. So in this case, we'll just say that I'm the maintainer, and the Slack points thing app is the repo. And then you as a contributor, if you want to say make changes to that application and then ask me to merge those changes back in, you would fork the repo. And so this diagram is sort of showing the whole flow. So you fork the repo and you have your own copy of it and you can import it into your instance and you can make changes to it. And everything you do is only in your repo and you commit those changes back. And then GitHub has this concept called a pull request, and a pull request is basically saying, here are all my changes, pull these back into the original repository. And this is where things usually get a little bit challenging. So we're actually working on an app, and we're not really at the point where we can share the app. This is something that this app is, we're going to maintain control over this for now, and maybe at some point in the near future we can talk more about it. But what this app does is it actually looks at the GitHub API and it says, oh, there's a pull request. I'm going to pull the details about that pull request into this app called GitHub Companion. And then I can apply those changes back into my maintainer instance. And then I can commit those changes back to the repo. So basically, this app just takes the data from the pull request and makes it easier to merge it back in. This is not actually doing a real Git merge. I want to be very clear about that. So for anybody that's familiar with Git and has done this sort of stuff before, it's not a real Git merge. But what it's doing is it's making it easier to get it in and apply it.
And then it couldn't do a Git merge because it would invalidate your checksum. And it's not using the normal ServiceNow process of importing it because ServiceNow won't import anything because it's not matching the checksum.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's critical. So if you're seeing this and you're like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to do a Git merge. No, don't do that. It's not going to work that way. So, and so then after all this is done, the final step is we can actually reset the contributor repo. So you can go out there and basically fetch the latest changes from the maintainer repo and then push them back to your repo. And so effectively the cycle is complete and then you can do it all over again. So this is the thing that we've been trying to make happen. And so for the rest of the session today, what we want to do, Andrew has very graciously agreed to be the guinea pig in this whole process to fork this repository. So this is the Slack thing point spot. We have a list of issues that we've created out here, some things that we want to work on. And so we're just going to work through this whole process and see what this looks like. So Andrew, let me, I'm going to stop sharing here. I'll pass this over to you.
I'll get a set to share here.
And for anybody who's watching us for the first time, if you're not familiar with Live Coding Happy Hour, this is the hour where we don't necessarily know if the things we're going to do will work. Things might break. Actually, usually they do, and that's okay. We like it, and we work through those challenges. So if you're new, that's what's going on.
Yeah, and it's definitely things are gonna break today because I haven't done anything in GitHub as relates to ServiceNow since December of last year. Yay, Rusty!
We'll get you back up to speed quickly.
So I have a Slack channel in which I have set up a new app and started some of the steps to get us engaged. I've got a spanking brand new Jakarta instance here. And now I need to go get the app, right?
Yeah.
So we should fire up Studio and start that process, right?
Yep. And have you gone through
it.
the process of forking on GitHub yet?
I have done many a fork on GitHub, not today.
Gotcha. So we'll go through that. And actually, can you zoom up your screen a little bit?
Absolutely.
Cool.
4K monitors there, Trixty.
Yeah.
Sign in, GitHub.
In which we try not to reveal our credentials to the entire rest of the world.
Yeah, well, that's thankful for LastPass for that. I don't know what my login is.
That's the best way. That's the best way to be.
So I need to go grab the actual repo. Do you have that handy?
Actually, just go to /Janerius, github.com/Janerius, and it should be on the front page of my GitHub profile.
Well, let's try that.
Probably the easiest way.
One of these days I'm going to have to learn how to spell your last name.
Oh, Nerius.
Hey, I recognize that guy.
There's me.
Black points thing.
You got it.
So we are going to want to do a fork, which there's a fork up here.
And so a fork is, for anyone not very familiar with Git, this is now Andrew's own copy.
So you can see up here at the top, and maybe I probably zoom in a couple more times. So now it's my SNAJB repo, my GitHub area / this copy of Slack points thing. And it even tells you handily that this is forked from Janerius's Slack points thing. So now I have a copy of this, which means I can then import this fork.
Yes, and it's very, very important because we've had, I know I've certainly done this before. If you accidentally clone the base repo, you won't have access later to commit changes to it. So make sure you clone your own.
Hey, look, we're going to need our credentials. Let's go figure out what those are over here on this other screen. Git. And it's from a ServiceNow lab. So it was probably something either ridiculously complex or ridiculously simple, but I still don't know what it is. Either LastPass generated it or it was like, hi, 1, 2, 3.
Either way, you don't want it out there.
I don't want it out there, and I don't even want to know. All right, so I've gone through the process of creating the application in Studio here, and now I can select that application. Look, we have all these lovely Slack points things. We've got tables and forms and all sorts of handy stuff that's pulled right in from that repository.
Very nice, very nice.
So the next step, I believe, was coming over here to the administration for my Slack channel itself. and going to, nope, not my Slack channel, the application. So I needed to, let's give that a whirl. Hey, look at that.
It worked. Very
It
nice.
works this time. So you put in your instance and then the application. So API and then the application and then the API we're looking for, which is handle Slack events, which I'm just going to guess right off the top of my head that that's going to be a API, a REST API point.
You would be correct. Yeah, that's a scripted REST API.
Scripted REST API. There we go.
Because basically what Slack does is Slack says, here's a very specific payload I'm going to send. You must adapt to it. And so scripted REST APIs let us do that. And I'm going to bug you every couple minutes to zoom in for us.
No, it's just, I'm going to do all the screens right now, and then it'll be happy.
Zoom all the screens.
Zoom all the screens.
So the other thing to mention here is, so Andrew, you created your own Slack team for this.
I did. I created my own Slack team just so that I didn't screw up the, an important Slack team.
Yeah. Well, and there's probably an integration limit there too. So, I mean, if anyone's watching and is interested in contributing, you do want to create your own Slack team.
Yeah. Certainly when you're testing this out and setting it up, for sure. And we don't want competing points things in a single Slack channel. That would be bad.
Yeah.
So that's I think I got most of this set up. I've got the message channel, so I've subscribed to an event. I've got my bot. He's got his permissions. I just showed those permissions, and I'll just leave them up because I need to copy them anyway. So
they're out now, and you'll change
them.
They're
out now, and there's no. I'll change them anyway. So I need to copy the bot. Right.
Yeah, that should be right.
Bot
the one.
token, and I need to come over here to my instance, and hopefully I've got my bot token property right here. Is that zoomed enough? That's got to be zoomed enough.
Yeah, it looks okay.
Does everybody want a token? Everybody gets a token today.
So if you happen to know the format for sending messages to a Slack team, anyway, we'll just leave it at that.
You can send one to my team right now. Have fun.
Oh man. So something else that's worth noting is that, and this is an interesting problem. So now that you set this, when you commit to GitHub, that token is going to also get committed to GitHub. And so this does raise some interesting challenges around, basically what's the best workflow, and accidentally leaking credentials into public repositories is not an uncommon thing, unfortunately. It's happened plenty of times before.
Not uncommon at all.
But yeah, so if you're doing this, just be aware of that. And I mean, best thing to do is to delete the value before you commit, but just be careful. And at some point, maybe we'll figure out a better place to store that so we don't accidentally store it in GitHub.
All right. So we've got our token in there, and that's as far as I know we needed to go. So what's next?
So, I mean, I guess probably the best thing, actually test it out, see if it works.
All right. Well,
This
that
will be
means
like
we need to say something in our channel.
The big test, right? You have to do, I think you have to invite him in. It's like a vampire.
He's not already here? He's right here?
Yeah, he's down there, but you'll have to actually invite him into the room.
Invite him to a channel?
He can only come as far as the door.
Invite to channel. View channel details, members, invite more people. And my bot's name is clearly awesome.
I love it.
Josh made him, so he gets to be awesome.
Thank you.
And let's give awesome some points. Can you give yourself points as well?
It will not let you give yourself points. So this is definitely the big test as to whether or not this thing is going to work. So it's not coming back with anything.
Well, let's go see what happened then.
Yeah, so I would start
think I got
looking
this. Go ahead.
at. I was going to say I would start by looking at that Slack event table, because if it came in, it should come in there.
One of these days, that's got to be fixed. The table dictionary page, every time you load it, it moves 2 of these worth and then moves back right after you've clicked it, like every time.
Usually that's what happens to me on shady websites with banner ads, and it's like the whole thing shifts, and then you click the ad, and
So yeah, I must have done something improperly because I have no Slack events.
So let's take a look at your subscriptions. Yeah. That probably is what it is.
Let's see. We've got event subscriptions, message channels. A message was posted to a channel.
Try doing bot events.
Bot events, sure. Let's do one. Message channels.
And it might be, what was the other message one there? Was there it was like message dot something. And while you're doing that, I'm also looking at the production, well, the quote unquote production version of this.
We've got IMs, groups.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Direct and private. So that looks closer to what it should be.
So that might be it.
I like success. Awesome should get some points.
Come on, Awesome.
You can do it.
Maybe try throwing a point at something random.
Random points.
Nothing coming in the payload.
Hey, let's see if anyone's, who's watching is going to tell us what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, I'm looking in the chat right now. So message channel event for bot is what somebody mentioned here, which is what you had. So that part should be good. I always have to try to remember how to actually get to the app. Where is that? Customize Slack. I'm just looking on the production one again. Message configure apps.
I'm just gonna reauthorize it just for funsies.
That's always a good thing too. It's not a bad idea.
When you change the configuration of the apps, it usually likes you to.
So I'm going to go to my build. Oh, here we go. It's under your apps. Endpoints thing. Because that particular part should be the straightforward part. So it's under event subscriptions. Yeah, all I've got is message.channels. I also have message.groups so that I could get private channels, but that shouldn't matter. Should not matter.
And that's my red instance, so and I only verified once. Let's turn off events. Why not? Let's turn it back on. Save some changes.
And I know this is a silly question, but do you definitely have, that's definitely the right dev instance URL?
Definitely the right dev instance URL.
Okay.
22051.
Okay, got it. Well, so maybe this is time to take a look at the logs.
Yeah, okay. We can do that. We'll give it one more
Well, no, yeah, that's so
Goes
weird.
like this. All right. So, logs. Let's go take a look at the logs. Let's see what we're getting here. Nothing's jumping out here in Tape Cleaner, which is 5 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, I see that. So nothing. Well, that's pretty interesting. Jace is far behind. I'm looking at the LCHH channel here. He's catching up.
He's catching up.
So let's try this. I am going to, let's see. One thing we could potentially do is I could actually take some sample data from the instance where this is running.
Yeah.
And I could paste that. Basically, you could create an event directly and see if we can at least get that working. And because if we can, then what would be interesting, let me think about this. So what would be interesting is to then at least see if we can see the business logic kick in, theoretically see the thing go and send a message to the channel. And then at that point, if we look at the issues that are available, we can fake some of this, which is, this is maybe an interesting angle to how you might deal with this kind of development anyway, because you maybe don't always have access to the full end-to-end flow, but you might have to work on a subset of it. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm just going to try one more thing, which is to remove the app and then put it back in entirely.
Okay.
While you're getting set up for our failover.
Sounds good. And oh, nice. We got pull requests coming in and everything, which is awesome. And at some point too, when I will also demonstrate what the pull requests look like on my side of things, so we can close that loop. Slack. Here's Slack events. And for everybody listening to me muttering, what I'm doing is I'm going out there and I am copying some existing data.
So how do I find my app once I've uninstalled it?
Go to build, the build menu. And then on the left, there should be something for my apps. It's on the top right. I'm sorry. It's way up top right.
Your apps, look at that. Way up the top right. See, awesome.
Oh, is that in the right Slack team? Oh, yeah, it must be. Never mind. Sorry. Ignore me.
Install my app to my workspace. Confirm what it can do. All right, so let's reinstall it back into my channel. Let's give that whole thing a refresh. Yeah, let's see. The member's still there. Yay. Apps. Awesome. He's in there. Let's give him some points.
Please, please, please. Will it work? Will it work?
Please. No.
Huh. Well then. So at this point, there are a couple things we can do to at least determine if it's coming in at all, because we can look at, we could put some debug messages in the scripted REST API and see if that's coming in.
That we could.
Because that seems to be the big issue here. Is I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of a token issue, and that token is the thing that's necessary to write messages back. But the fact that we're not getting anything in the table at all is pretty interesting. Seems a little weird to me.
Yeah, I clearly did something wrong, but that's how we learn things, is getting it wrong.
And you might not have done anything wrong. It's entirely possible that who knows what. There's something weird going on. So, yeah, so look at the scripted REST API for, I can't remember the name of it, but it should be down somewhere under scripted REST APIs.
Access, definition, handle, Slack, events.
Ah, there we go.
Hello. We have all sorts of yummy things here now.
Yep.
Yay. All right. Let's go handle event. Which, that looks correct.
That does. That looks like the right endpoint. And we've got the thing that's out there saying, so the first thing, it checks to see if there's a challenge, and the challenge is when you first set it up, it sends a special challenge parameter.
And we were getting that.
Yeah, it turned green, so that means that that was successful. And then if the challenge parameter is not there, that's when we go on and process it. So, so here's what we can do is let's set some breakpoints, and then I'm going to direct message you in Slack one of the payloads, because what we can do is we can actually post this payload directly to this REST API from REST API Explorer.
That we can. We certainly can. API Explorer, your friend, my friend, our friend.
I love API Explorer.
It is such a handy tool.
I'm actually writing a blog post that talks a little bit about it. Not a lot, but.
Loading tables. Yay for slow instances.
So the namespace.
Switching over to our correct namespace. We're in the right API name. We're on the latest version. Yay.
Cool. And so then in the raw, I think it'll be raw. Yeah.
Yep. And you got a payload for me?
I
Looks
do.
like you do. Look at that.
Now this may not work because, but what we're testing here is if the API will accept it, because the actual contents of it aren't going to match your Slack channel just because of the various key values and whatnot. Right. So the status came back to 100. So it looks like it worked.
Response is empty with 200, but looks like it's fairly happy. So what we were expecting here is, we got a challenge, and we set the status and it returned it. So it was happy with that. So presumably it should have done some of this.
Yeah. So did that payload show up in the table?
Let's take a whirl.
Oh,
look at that.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of them now.
Where did you little guys come from?
Looks like they all just rolled in. Friendly payloads.
Did a magic gremlin come and send us some payloads?
I think that might be what happened. So the real question is did it show up in here now? What? Okay.
Did we get? We
Okay. So they're coming through now.
we got an entry. Did we send a response? No. Okay. Well, that's. I mean, hopefully this one's the one I sent. Let's see what's in here. Oh, that's an old one.
So it sounds like Slack is slowing these things down a little bit. That's kind of interesting. And
Yeah, so that's clearly so that was moments ago, and this one was, gosh, that was here at 57. So that was not recent.
that's yeah. So there's some queuing. It sounds like. So I guess the question now is, at
Thanks
least
for
we know
integrations.
that part's that part's working, but responses aren't. So maybe look at what we need to figure out is if we're actually sending requests back out to Slack or not.
That is true. So where are you doing that in here?
So I believe that is happening in the process. Might be in the process points business rule. There's I think that looks right. We've got a bunch of code embedded in the business rule. It's ripe for extraction into a script include. Maybe somebody will submit us a pull request.
Maybe someone will do that, huh?
Yes. So we go out there, we post the message.
Actually, I should look to see if I've incremented any points.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah.
Right. First thing is go see, are you actually storing these things in Slack points? That's where it's stored, right?
Yeah, it should be showing up here.
So they are coming in. So I've got the events, but we're not handling them appropriately. Let's see how many have snuck in now.
That's 10. Okay. Huh. So no actual points though. What is going on with that?
So clearly there won't be any outbound messages back to the channel because there are no points to
right.
return. So processing points.
It should still go through though. So if we look at so it goes through and it looks for the user ID. What is it doing? It's initializing it. It's saying if it's not there, it should be creating it if it's not there, down around line 29. User ID equals thing, points equals 1, and then we insert.
Well, did I initialize any users? Let's see if we got that far. It moved. Normally I just, yell at myself, hey, we got some users. They have points.
Oh. So this is actually
this is a different table that isn't.
Yeah. So you know why that's there? It's that was some work that I started and I never finished, and now I forgot about it, and now it's coming back to haunt us.
We didn't know what victory looked like.
We didn't. So so I mean, this is really good news though.
The points. All right. So and we've even got 3 points for points. So that's good. So now we can be concerned if and why we're not sending outbounds. So we're getting this far. We're inserting and we're updating.
Getting close.
So we've got our REST messages. Now, is it possible that I might have, and I'm thinking that in my bot, what I authorized the bot to do may have not been quite right.
You know what else is you reinstalled it?
I did reinstall it.
I think you might have a new token to leak.
And it's a new token because I reinstalled it.
I think
possibly.
That's it. I will bet. Well, I don't know, $1.
A whole $1.
Yeah. Next time I see you.
The permissions for the bot, though, so let's copy his token. So, anybody who was, felt left out last time for the token.
I'm giving you a new opportunity.
Here you go. Your chance again to. Because without that token, the ServiceNow can't send things back.
Correct.
Hey, look at that.
Oh, look at that. Nice.
ServiceNow was waiting to send me some yummy points. All the points. Let's see if we get some. I should use somebody other than points.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's a bad pun.
It's a terrible pun. Let's see if Yellow gets points. Of course, now we're waiting on Slack to actually, or my instance actually receive that from Slack, and we know we've got some quite significant delays. So might not actually be a bad thing that we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're just waiting for Slack at this point, which does give us. Oh, there's a couple that came back. Those might have been delayed too.
Do we have Yellow?
Yep. That's just points plus plus. So that must have been a while ago.
And we're yeah, so we don't have Yellow yet. So we're not concerned that we don't have anything response-wise because we haven't received a new payload yet. All right, so I think we've roughly gotten to base camp now.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is basically exactly if somebody's going to go and contribute, this is exactly what they will have to go through is this initial setup. Of course, you could try doing this without setting it up, but that's not very satisfying if you can't see the thing working and adapting to your code changes.
Well, and the struggle when you're doing that is if you do make your changes, it's way harder to test it if you don't have it set up. And I like to know that I've achieved victory when I get there. So having a test goal and plan and being able to actually test it live is very good.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're waiting for that, maybe what would be good is if we look at the issues list on that Git repo, because that would be really the next thing that somebody would have to do is after they've got all this stuff set up, would be to go out to the repo. And it's not going to be on your own fork of the repo. You have to go back to the base repo, and that's
you can get there with the handy link there under your. So the fork will always let you get back to the original. And we want to do things like ignore plus plus inside code blocks. Wow, that's not the easiest one. Allow users to check their own points. That one sounds. I might go after that one.
Cool. I actually like it. Yeah, there's a couple in there. So, and what I'm trying to do is go through and also mark some of these. Is this would be a good one as if you're just dipping your toe in the water. What's a good one to start with? Another good one, and you don't have to do this one now, is the randomize the responses from congrats.
That's nice. So
somebody can come and if you're feeling daunted by some of these, pick this one. I like if you're up for it, I say go for the check your points.
Yeah, sure, let's do it. You already have the leaderboard, right?
Leaderboard is not there yet.
Oh,
so
well, then we'll blaze a trail.
Yes. Yeah, so anything you write for this will become foundational for the leaderboard, I'm guessing.
All right, so let's go back to my instance, and let's see where we would live. I'm trying to catch up to where we're at. So we want to. So we've got our fork. We want to make some edits. and then we want to let you know that, you should definitely take this code in. And that's what our goal for today is, right?
Yep, that's the goal. And it can even be just little, we can even get halfway there today, and we'll go through the whole process.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the place we want to look is that process points. I believe today it's a bad name for it because we're going to start inserting other functionality there. But I think this is ultimately where you have to basically get in the line of the incoming message, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so this is parsing our payload and then doing things. So it's looking for this, and we could presumably have something that's looking for a different string, or we could do forks from this one. We could even have a earlier business rule that like directs the traffic.
Yeah.
Down to the different functions, but that's refactoring for another day. We're going to do something a little simpler today. So this is looking for a particular text match, and we're going to look for a different text match, right? In fact, for this, aren't we going to be looking for a message, or do we want to do this? So this is a design decision. Do we want to do this as you're messaging Slackbot, or Awesome, in my case, directly, or just put it in any random channel? Because those are two different use cases.
That's a really, that's a really interesting and good point. Which is basically, what is the entry point? Because you want it to be something different. It has to be something that the bot recognizes as basically addressing itself.
So that becomes, those are two different use cases that we can try and figure out which one we want to handle, and we might want to do both, but that's certainly something that would be slightly different, as accepting messages to our bot directly versus a random, any message from anywhere that meets these criteria. But let's go with just general. So let's do some typing. So we need to figure out what our unique string is that we're going to look for, and then we're going to look for it. And so we're looking. What are we doing here? We're doing my points.
Yeah. It's going to be something like, because you're going to have to.
I can't believe I just typed all this. I really can't believe I just typed all that, because I love to copy and paste. If I had a shirt, as far as coding goes, all it would say is copy and paste only, please.
And the secret, the inside secret is when you're live coding, typing gives you time to think. But
that is the secret. So we are going to be looking for, and we're going to do a little regular expression here. So let's look for, so we got to make a unique key if we're going to do any channel anywhere. Let's do my points. Very, very sneaky my points. We will be there. And then we're going to just, and who doesn't love that you can just toggle that?
Oh, I love it so much.
I mean,
it saves so much space.
It saves so much like mental space when I'm looking at my code. Oh, I could just toggle it down. Yay! And I'm gonna be a nice steward, and I'll go beneath your existing function instead of like jumping ahead of yours. So we're going to do my points for each then I'm gonna do roughly, and then what are we doing
And so I'm
here?
just catching up on chat messages. And so Jace is recommending, so the way plus plus does it today is if you mention plus plus and then you give it the name of the person you're checking, and then you end an equals at the end. That's a little interesting.
Okay.
So I know we're doing this based on our past experience with plus plus, but I also support making independent and new design decisions. I say,
So I like calling out the bot directly because
yeah,
that is a very unique string we can trigger off of. That's not even a text, like that's the bot's ID string that Slack sends us even.
yeah, I do actually really like that part. Yeah, so if we could, I guess the thing we would have to do is we would have to figure out what the bot's ID is. Which initially, for the purposes of today,
We can just give him a pot. We can give him a give him a point, and then we'll figure out what his ID is when that comes in eventually.
Yes.
But roughly, go ahead.
I was going to say, how about this? What I think we should do is, keep going with your my points for now because that's easy to match, and then we can evolve and improve the matching to something else later. That way we can get it working.
So we are going to, inside of this Jazz function, we've got our own function. We're going to call our function my points. That is, I lose my context.
There's a squiggly brace missing. The close friends.
It's over here. It's at the end. It doesn't belong there. That's what it is.
That looks better.
Does that look better? There we go.
It's happy now.
I'm gonna do all kinds of bad things here. It's great.
It's live coding happy hour. It's expected.
It's live coding happy hour.
And encouraged.
Well, and we also don't have very much time left. So do we want to, because we're supposed to wrap up roughly soon, right?
I mean, the ending time is more of a guideline than a rule. So if you have time to keep going, we'll go all the way through it.
So I don't know that we have time to make a working version of this, but what we certainly have time for is walking through the end process of what we want to do here, which is so the first thing we want to do is we want to go check for this user, right? So we need to go figure out who the user is, then check to see if they have any points, and then return however many points they have.
Yeah.
And all of that sounds like more than I'm ready to do today.
That's totally fair.
Especially because that makes me want to abstract most of this stuff out of this into a script include and then call it with some parameters. So I'm like,
you mean you don't think we should be doing all this manual REST message construction like multiple times? Not gonna just copy paste the whole thing.
I feel like that seems excessive to have, certainly in the same business rule more than once.
I would agree.
That seems like no, I don't want to do that. But so just for the sake of having some code in here, what we'll do is we'll say we'll grab some of this. So we're going to take that and we're going to check for we don't need that.
Oh,
we don't need that. Well, we'll check to see if they're a user. Sure. What you got?
Before you save anything, there's a very, very important thing that you OBS just crashed. And the funny thing is apparently, okay.
So it looks like we're back up.
Let me just refresh over there. Okay, yeah, I think we were back.
Yay! Yeah, it looks all back to me.
and so they're mentioning in the chat that apparently the spot where everything cut out was very comical. It was like a very important thing.
And no stream.
And so because I think that did get missed, the very important thing, and this was commented correctly in the Slack, so you get bonus points, is to create a feature branch before you actually make your changes. And so Andrew did that already. It's in the source control menu. You click create branch, and that's also documented in that blog post. But you want to make sure you do that so that the whole pull request process works the way it's supposed to. So
right, and it's important to do that before you start doing your coding, because your stuff goes away then.
Yes.
So we've created our branch, and then we've pasted some code in here. It's not useful code, but we saved it. It's saved. And now the next step is I want to tell the owner that I have useful code for them. That would be you, Josh.
Excellent. So
how do these lovely users go about doing that?
So the first thing you want to do is commit your changes. So from source control, you'll go to commit changes.
Yep.
And put a useful commit message in there, something that's descriptive of what it is and what's going on. Nice one.
So we put very useful things because we want to tell a compelling story to the source control owner why they actually want this thing.
And it's really helpful. This is something that the more descriptive the commits are and the more information you have in them about what it is, it just makes it a lot easier for us to get your code into the real app. So that helps us out a lot.
You really, I mean, I said it a little flippantly, but you really do want to tell a compelling story to the owner of the code why your stuff should actually get brought in.
Yeah. And at this point, we're going to go outside of ServiceNow. Yep.
So we're here over currently we're looking at your original version.
Yeah, so you'll want to go to your version of the repo, and from your version, that's where you'll get access to what you need to do next.
So if I go over here to my repo, I will open it up.
And notice that branch, how it shows up and it says you recently pushed branches. This is part of the reason you want to create those branches, because this makes it really easy to figure out where the code went. And now you click compare and pull request.
My own points 1 minute ago.
And so this will now, you'll see that the base fork is master on my version of the repo. And this is where you can actually put even more useful information. So some of the time the commit message, maybe you could have, say, 50 commits. You could have a whole bunch of commits before you actually decide to do a pull request. And so this is where you would summarize, like, this is what this whole thing is and how it's doing and what it's working, all of that. You can also in here reference the issue. So if you just type hashtag in your description there, you can put in 7 or whatever else the case is, and it will, as you can see that drop down of issues, you can reference that directly, which is really helpful.
Yeah, and so it looks like hashtag 10 was the hashtag that we were going after.
Perfect. And then if you scroll down a little bit, there's some more stuff. So down here, you're going to see everything that changed. So it says that 30 files changed, and this is something that you might see. You might see things change that you weren't really sure why they changed, and there are some idiosyncrasies of the source control integration. So just be aware of that, and it's not necessarily an issue. It's just something that happens.
And some of these are absolutely, they have to change, like the checksum. It can't possibly be the same.
Exactly. Yeah, the checksum has to change. Something we did run into. It would
be really bad if it wasn't.
Yeah. If the checksum's the same, you didn't do anything. Something we ran into is Jace had tested this, and he actually ran into a situation where, because he had an older version of ServiceNow that was then upgraded to Jakarta, the older version of ServiceNow had some fields on these base system tables that newer versions of ServiceNow do not have. And so ideally, if you're contributing to this project, you'll want a Jakarta clean instance that's not been upgraded. So be aware of that. And at this point, you can create your pull request.
We'll create our pull request. Now this will get rejected because there's nothing useful in here. And I didn't tell a compelling story.
Now what I will do is let's switch sharing, and I'm going to show you what I see now. And basically the other side of this workflow. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, there we go. And we'll go into my repository, and I can see that I've got 6 pull requests already. So thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Enthuma. Thank you, Jace.
That's really what's awesome about being able to do this, especially for when you're building something for a community that the community is also able to contribute to. I
can't tell you how excited and happy and giddy I am to see pull requests coming in on a repo. This is fantastic. So we'll open this up, and now I can take a look at what was submitted. I can see the files that changed. Here's that commit. And so your commit message, useful crap, goes here. That's going to come through. Also, so you see how this says admin committed. What I would recommend is when you're developing, put your GitHub username as your admin user. So create yourself an admin user in your instance that has the same username as your GitHub username, and then set the email address on that user to your GitHub email address. And so that just makes sure that when you actually do the commits, they come through and look like
they're from you. Yeah, absolutely.
So, so the final thing I want to show you is I'm going to go into my master instance. So this is where I have this instance hooked up to the base repo. And this is the part that, we're not fully ready to show this off yet, and we can't really share all of this yet. But just a tiny sneak preview. Look at these things showing up in the platform. You submitted a pull request, and now I have a list in this thing called useful, awesome things here. And I can see all of the stuff that you just did. This was actually a webhook sent by GitHub to my dev instance, and I have a diff of all the stuff that changed, and I can retrieve the files, and I can actually open those files, and I can potentially accept those changes directly into my instance. So there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. Hopefully we'll get to show you more on that later. But what I'll do after the fact, and when I've got a little time off live coding happy hour here, is I'm going to look through those pull requests that you guys have submitted, and I'll work on merging those in. And after I merge them in, I will then commit them to the real repo, the main repo.
And then we will do that last step, which on your handy dandy chart, I believe was 9, which was to bring those back down to our forks.
Yep, exactly. So that's the trouble, is your features are in your feature branch, but your master branch doesn't have anything and does not have those changes. So after I have, in this little thing here, after I have committed those back up to the maintainer repo, that's where this little black step 9 here is. You're going to fetch the changes from upstream, and basically it's going to pull all the stuff in that I committed, and then you're going to force push those. And if anybody who's from a Git background hears the word force push is usually a very bad thing to do, but unfortunately it's what we have to do. That's how we have to do it. So it's just the way it works.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of choice in this method, right? I mean,
yep. And so That's just the way it works. Yeah, it is really what it boils down to. So you'll get those back into your version, and then from there you can create your next feature branch and keep working. So it's this whole cycle. It's going to take some getting used to, I think, for everybody. It's a fairly standard workflow for a lot of open source projects. There's just a little bit of extra work we have to do to get the code into the main thing. So anyway.
Well, and I know I'm completely appreciative of the fact that y'all are working on doing 6, 7, and 8. Because I have a very good idea of what you're doing in order to do that, and I'm glad you're doing it.
We're excited about it. When we first got a little bit of it working, we were giddy with excitement. I'll just leave it at that. And hopefully someday soon we can talk more about it.
Yeah, there's many scary things about doing that, but in order to bring code into a system, you have to accept a certain level of risk and scariness, because that's you can either have users and you have risk, or you can not have users and you have no risk.
Yes.
Accept some level of risk there. So
this is true.
Let's get your rating for your beer.
Yeah, so the Zombie Dust, this is very, very, very rare for me, but this is a solid 5.
Oh, wow.
That's
pretty impressive.
That's how good it is. Somebody mentioned in the chat they wanted me to get some 3 Floyds over to them, and I wish I could, but
yeah,
it's that good.
And that was to North Carolina, so if you were getting some to North Carolina, I'd want some this way too. And mine, this Four Saints Gosa, this is a fantastic beer, and I just started to like Gosas in the last 2 months, but it's so good. I just wish it wasn't so expensive. It's a 4.6 just because it's so expensive.
Oh, that's pretty. So the expense modifier impacts the rating. I can get behind that.
Expense always modifies rating.
Well, we will wrap this up. Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate it. Have a fantastic weekend. We hope everybody gets involved that's interested in getting involved, and send us emails or get on Slack and chat with us. And we're learning a lot and evolving this. And so, if you have ideas or things that you want us to do differently, we'll look at that and figure it out.
Thanks as always, Josh. And it was a great stream. And we got to show most of the whole flow here, which was really great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. See y'all later.